Alright guys, I just want to make this sort of general video. It's not about Bible prophecy for a change. It's more about a wood chip garden that I'm doing at the moment. And how this all came about was I remember seeing a video. It was called something like the Eden Project, Eden Garden of Eden. Paul, I don't know his proper surname, it's like Fauci or something like that. And I seen it, like I look back at, I said, when did I actually see this video? Because I did share it on Facebook, so I managed to see when I shared it, and it's something like Back to Eden, called the video. And so I actually seen it at the feast time, so it's like October of last year. And through the winter it must have been in my spirit, and I seen a guy who's a tree surgeon, and he has a lot of wood chips, and I said, yeah, go on, chuck us some wood chips. And he delivered some wood chips, but I didn't actually see them because they were so small. And then I seen him again. I'm like, yeah, wood chips, but I didn't realize he dropped off a load. So he dropped off a second load, and then there was like a mountain of wood chips outside my house, and I was like, oh my, what am I going to do with these? Because I started digging into them. So what this Back to Eden kind of method is that basically it's like going back to the Garden of Eden when Eve was deceived by Satan, took the apple out of it because she wanted to be like God, gave it to her husband, led him astray, he ate, and then sin came into it. So that then they saw that they were naked, and they covered themselves up, didn't they, with the fig leaves. So it's kind of like the same principle, but with the earth, like the earth as being a living organism. And it's more like, if you don't cover the soil, God will, with grass or weeds and that. It's not just to take up the space as much. I think it's more to protect the soil from any erosion. I guess you look at the desert places where they don't have much greenery growing. It's desert, but it hasn't got any protection, and the water has like evaporated from it, I guess. But when you do the wood chip, you're taking away what God's protection, the grass, to protect it from any further erosion, and then you put in wood chip there, and all the benefits. I don't know the ins and outs, but it provides, it composts itself, so it's turning into compost itself, creating nutrients, creating I don't really want to go into it too much, but keeping the moisture in the soil, protecting the soil from the UV rays from the sun, preventing evaporation as well, keeping all the water in the soil. And I just think, just by providing these wood chips, which kind of still alive really, just gives the soil that big kickstart, as if it turns up with like an army of enzymes and such, that they kind of get to work on not just the wood chips but the soil underneath the wood chips. And it's more of like so it's like a no dig thing, so you don't need dig or bring back the surface of the wood chips when you're planting something. All right, so how I went about it anyway, that's kind of like the technical stuff about it. But so how I went about it, I started with my primary vegetable patch. So I mean, there was about 3-4 inches of from my soil, my compost, which is pretty good soil anyway, because I'll throw leaves on there, I'll throw grass on there, I'll throw or berry not wood like food peelings, yeah. So I've always fed that garden. I've always had good results from it. So, you know, I guess from that it's going to be hard for the wood chips to beat that, to be honest. But anyway, so my primary patch, it got covered by wood chips. About 4 inches to the top of the breeze block all the way around. And then I did the bottom of my garden, which is like, so you have beds, so you have clay beds, which are really, you can't even dig into it. Clay, muddy soil and grass clumps and weeds and not weeds as such, but grass clumps and like dandelions. And so, you know, I cleared it out first. And then just put a layer of wood chips down all along the bottom. So covered all the clay soil with about, you know, 3-4 inches of wood chips. I even in parts I put wood chips over some like concrete slab paths that we have. I might sound a bit crazy as well, but I just to keep it all level was one thing. But now I look back at it and it's like you're kind of connecting all these things in an eco thing. And the amount of worms that I've seen during pulling these wood chips out, it was amazing. I remember one, I was loading buckets into a wheelbarrow because the wheelbarrow wouldn't fit through the back gate. But it was like, there was a nice big fat juicy worm on every load. And I was like, wow, the amount of worms and life and, you know, incredible. You get more birds and stuff in the garden as well from it. So I layer the bottom end of the garden, even across the concrete paths. But like I said, to me, it's all joining natural earth alive all across the bottom of the garden then. I also put some onto my mum's like yearly garden bed where she has some trees there. She has some hydrangeas. She has some hydrangeas and she has some bushes that come there every year. She also has some pot plants which have these trees growing out of them, so I've filled the pot plants with the wood chips as well. And then was to do the front garden, so same kind of thing. It was like clay, crappy soil, weeds, thorns, trees that weren't really doing much, grass clumps, and then there was like checkered sort of flags laid out. I can't remember who did it, whether it was me or somebody or my dad maybe, but been there for many years. But it's just like checkered laid out flags like this, and then sort of weed and grass clumps all in between. So I ripped it all out, created a new fresh front bed. So the first thing I did was just create a initial path all the way from top to bottom, made a fresh front bed. And then just pulled what I could up, loosened the clay soil as much as I could, and I just laid the wood chips all the way down. And morning. Yeah, so laid the wood chips all the way down. You have the front path there, and then I went forward and made like a mound. Maybe this wasn't the best thing to do actually, but I made a mound and then put a trench in it, and I put like 2 inches of compost because I was of the understanding that the seeds are going to need something to root to. So I made like a trench all the way down, and I put like 2 inches of compost in there, and then I laid some seeds. So I laid lettuce seeds all the way down, and then put some random, like these flowers that I got from the supermarket, and just laid some and just laid some random, I didn't even read what they were, so you know, it's going to be a bit of a surprise, like, so, you know, and just in these random places where my mum can see it, because she's like disabled, so she can't really walk that far, so it's not like she can run up the steps and go and look at the front garden from that view. It's more like, where can she see it from the front door, where can she see it from the front window, you know what I mean, just to make it a bit easier. So I didn't evenly spread them out. I just like, oh, she could see it from there, she could see it from there, no, she can see it from there, she can see it from there. So I just put all these random flowers in. I think it was a week and a half, unless that was some of the other lettuce sprouts that I've got, but less than a week and a half they'd sprouted, and I could see lettuce coming up, and now they're growing now, but more at the bottom half of the garden, not at the top. So we'll have to just wait and see. It might be that they're a little bit later, which doesn't matter anyway. I know the sun's going to be, well, it'll move within the next month, it'll move to its farthest north, which will probably put more heat on there. But I know lettuce like it not too hot, especially when they're young. So I have to just wait and see. It's okay with me if the top part of the garden, which is a little bit more shaded because of the more house basically, it's okay if they come later. So then you'll have, you know, a bit of a more of a staggered crop. So then I carried on working in the front. I made a central bed reservation, put a second path in with the flagstones. And then the kind of front bed by the fence, if you like, so adjacent to the fence, but when you're looking at it from the front door will be the rear. But up along the fence, did the same thing. I used some old timber there. I lined the bed and stuck all the wood chips in there. You know, I pruned some of the lower stuff and pulled some leaves off, but guess what, you can just throw it down there, because the greenery helps the composting process with the brown stuff, the wood chips. So throwing greenery or green leaves or green grass in with the wood chips is great, because it helps it, apparently it helps it compost, which any bit of good green, like food waste and stuff put in with it, it's all going to help the composting process over time. Like I say, you know, I'm not stupid. I know that I'm not just going to layer down a layer of wood chips this year and like expect to get like great results at the end of the year, but I wouldn't be surprised if I did. But it's going to be from years on, it's just going to get better and better. And since we've got until 2029 until I leave this place on a missionary for the last 3.5 years towards Israel, close of the age, you know, we've still got another 5 years here, you know, after the first passing. But then you got the trumpet judgments, which are going to lead on another couple of years anyway, until the last 3.5 years is going to begin with them triple blood moons. In 2029, you know, and King William going to Israel and ruling the world from Israel. So we've still got another 5 years here, you know, 2024, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 5 years. I was even thinking about trying to start some like apple and cherry and plants and such like, but you know, I've had a workload at the moment, so but it's something I might want to do. I might start, you know, making some apple trees or making some cherry trees, and you know, in preparation. And so yeah, so the front garden I did like that, and I had some broccoli and some cabbage sprouts which weren't the best, like, and so I put them out there. I kind of made a hole, like the size of a plant pot if you like, put some compost as a bed in there again, put the broccoli and the cabbage in there, put some compost in there, and then layered it with finely sieved wood chip. Well, not finely sieved, but maybe about a centimetre mesh, and just sieved the wood chip, and what the finer stuff that comes through the bottom, I use that to put on top of them. And just a quick note as well, with the lettuce, when I said I made a mound and a train and a compost, what I actually put on top of them was wood chip. I didn't put compost on top of them and then leave them like that, like some people have done. I put about a centimetre of sieved wood chip over the top of them. So it was wood chip over the top, and they've sprouted through, no problem. No problem. The bottom end of the garden is too many. I'm going to have to either thin them, or what I want to do is let them grow a little bit, and then if there's patches that the lettuce haven't grown, then I'll have to move them, try and plant them somewhere else. But they've all germinated through wood chip. So forget all this. Even I doubted a little bit. That tiny little lettuce is one of the tiniest sprouts. You know, it's not like cucumber. I mean, they got big sprouts on them, or beans even. But, you know, lettuce is very, 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 very tiny. And you're thinking, is that going to make it through the wood chip? Absolutely. 100% it makes it through the wood chip. So, yeah, again, so finely sieved wood chip on top of these, like broccoli, cabbage. And even went all out, I put some rows in, laid it with compost again, like I said. Put some spring onion seeds in there, direct sow. Oh yeah, that was it. And also when I was planting the cabbage and the broccoli, these seeds, these small, very small, very sort of delicate plants out in the front bed, I also put some seeds in as like a backup, because if these die, then maybe the seeds behind them will germinate and grow into strong plants by themselves. Which I've also took pots and put broccoli in them, and they've only just sprouted now. You know, maybe after about 2 weeks. And so in the front, I did that, a cabbage with its own seed, a couple of centimetres of sieved wood chip, okay, a train of spring onions, compost, sieved wood chip on top. I mean, the birds or something, or the cat or something has been scratching away at these points, or put some like really big twigs over them to try and stop them from getting to where the spring onions are. And the cabbage and the broccoli, it's kind of a mismatch, because some have survived, some leaves have been eaten. Now, the thing is, I don't want to just say, oh, the leaves have been eaten, right, I'm going to pull them all up and plant some new ones. And, you know, I'd like to give it some more time and just see if some new growth comes through. Do you know what I mean? Actually, it reminds me of one of that Paul's videos where he talked about how he planted, he never has a problem with slugs, but he planted celery in a place, and he says slugs just came and ate all the leaves off of them, and then but all was left was the centre stem. But then he says he went on and they grew great celery from them. So it's kind of, you know, should I wait and see? So I'll give it maybe a month and see what becomes of them. But I have got some backups. You know, I've got about 6 other cabbage and broccolis. So it's just learning. You know, this whole construction of the garden is new to me. Now I'm just trying to get it back to the fire. It might even be I'm getting the real sort of senses that maybe next year what I might do is just plant the seeds of what I want in the place, cover it with like 2 centimeters of finely thinned wood chip, and just let them come on at the right time. You know, I might even just plant tomatoes where I want them and just let them come from seed, because it seems to be working that way. It worked for the lettuce. I also went back to this, you know, front window, front door bed, if you like, and then I did a train, but I didn't mound up. So I did another little train, and I did another couple of inches of compost, and then I spread all these onion seeds out. I didn't have as many as I thought, so I spaced them out a bit. So that's white onion. Spaced them out a bit, and because I loved spinach, but I haven't really got crops of spinach that I can just go to, I planted some of this crinkly spinach, which I haven't had any luck with really growing it, you know, to the point of eating it. So just like the flower, just like the random flowers, I put random bits of this crinkly spinach, which haven't been able to grow very well. So there's a second train in the front bed there, and that is white onions and some scattered spinach clusters. And then the front garden as well, there was a patch there right by the gas meter, which is quite, you can't really dig there because the gas pipe comes really shallow, so you can't put fork in or nothing like that. But it's usually where we have our daffodils, but the daffodils are finished, and then a load of weeds come, and in fact there was already weeds there, and the daffodils have only died off, you know. A couple of weeks, a month ago, because it's only just been the new year. The daffodils come and they mark the new year, the proper new year. March time. And so what I did was just cut all the greenery back, and then just, like I say, piled the wood chip on top of it. You can leave the greenery underneath the leaves because they're already been killed, and put the wood chip on top of them. But they're pretty vigorous in that front little patch there, so it might take a bit of weeding and so on. And then I put some in these daisies because, you know, everything's like wood chip, and I wanted to just brighten up the garden more, you know. So I bought some flowers for my mum and put some daisies there in the front, a couple of daisies in the front. But what I also did was, quite close to the wall, I put some peas. They were old peas, and I couldn't really find them at the time. I mean, I was literally tempted to get some dry peas that, you know, dry peas that you get in a box for cooking, and you rehydrate them and cook them and eat them. I was literally on the edge of burying them instead, but I then found the peas. I knew I'd seen them, but I just couldn't figure out where I put them. And so what I did was, quite close to the wall, which is a very shaded place, I put another train, a deep train, like you know, sort of like 4 inches thick. Put a layer of compost again, and then just scattered all these pea seeds, because I know that you can plant them really close together. But then what I also did, I covered them with a wood chip, but then what I also did was doing a smaller train, and then put some of these peas that were left over directly into the wood chip. See, here's the thing, is that it would be a good peace of mind to put compost in, so you know, at least they've got something to grab, the seeds have got something to grab a hold of initially. But after doing that and all of that, I come across a video someone who's doing the wood chip garden, and they have a wood chip patch, and they said they did nothing but, apart from get carrot seeds, which are tiny seeds, carrots, and sprinkle them on top of the wood chip, and that was it. They didn't put a train in, they didn't put compost in as a foundation. They just literally sprinkled these carrots into the wood chips, and I guess they would have fell in the gaps and such, but guess what? She had a whole crop of carrots that grew in the wood chip and grew into the wood chip, and there wasn't any like deformed carrots or anything. So I was like, wow. So that front little patch, you know, I planted some peas just directly into the wood chip. Do you know what I mean? But to be honest, there's only a couple of inches, about 3 inches down, and you already got to the soil that the daffodils and the weeds were on. So they haven't got far to go. So, but that was recently. That was one of the last things I did in the front there. You know, after completing the back. Oh yeah, of course. Forgot about it. Probably the biggest job that I was doing in the garden is kind of before I did the front garden. What I did was, because I knew I was going to need wood chip, I actually created a tower for my strawberries. I had about 20 odd children strawberries from last year. Which were produced from the runners, from like 6 plants from last year, something like that, and then about 6 plants didn't produce any runners, children. So I had like 20 plants from these children. So like after I'd done the wood chip at the bottom of the garden and my primary veg patch, I then moved on to strawberry tower. So I built 6 inches or so of like raised bed, and then what I did was came in like was it 6 inches, something like that, yeah. And then went up another tier, and then another tier. So then built like kind of like a pyramid, had it south facing, so there wasn't any, you know, raised bed on the north face. It was just blank. You'll see from the pictures what I mean. And then I put all these strawberries in. I filled it all with wood chip, compacted it down as much as I can, because I know it's going to drop, so I wanted the drop to be as less as possible. So compacted it all down, built this tower, and then came around to the strawberries. Then I'll dig a good, you know, size hole out. I even put some stuff in like eggshells or banana peelings. Carrot peelings in the different tiers with different peelings actually, and then put compost in, and then put the strawberry on top of it, and then put compost round the strawberry, and then just kind of push the wood chips back again. And you know, it's a bit of a mismatch of results at the moment, which we're only just really started to heat up. Again, it's a late year seasonal wise. Have you noticed how, especially in the UK and probably the US as well, because we seem to have the same weather, have you noticed how it's been a long cold spring, and that, you know, it's took some time, and only recently actually, because because it's a leap year as well, and the new year was late. The new year was the 8th of April, which was the solar eclipse of America. That was the new moon that starts the first month of the year. Passover was late, 22nd. In fact, the end of Passover, the 8th. The temperature just went whoop. The temperature just went up on BBC, and I kind of had that feeling of God saying to me, now that Passover feast is over, and by the way, the 7th day, I remember like, oh, I really want to get busy. I really want to get back in the garden, but the 7th day is a Sabbath. The first day is a Sabbath, in which Jesus was crucified the day before, but the 7th day is a Sabbath also. So I had to wait for that 7th day, and I was like, I really want to get in the garden. It was almost like, wait. Okay, now. And after that 7th, after about the 28th, the temperature just went up like that on BBC, because it's all colour-coded. I like that on the BBC. It's all colour-coded, so you can see any cold spell. And it was greeny, green, and then it went up to orange. And then that and Passover, I was thinking, do you know what? This feels like the right time for me to start planting stuff outside now. So yeah, that's how I went about. Strawberry tower, like I said, so strawberry tower went up before the front garden was done, and kind of mixed results. Oh, that's why, because strawberries are usually early bloomer. Fruit, early harvest. I think it was last year June we were getting our strawberries, but like I say, we're on a leap year, so like I've said to a mate of mine who I've given strawberries to, don't expect strawberries probably until July UK time now. And so yeah, and then after Passover, that's when I started to put my tomatoes outside. They've been outside already, hardening off. They've been in trays, hardening off, but a few of them just were really light. And remember, these were in pots with just compost and no wood chip or anything on them, and some of them were just kind of like, I just really need something to eat, man. I just really need some nutrients. So I thought, do you know what, let's just go all in. So I started putting the tomatoes in the primary patch, which has had the wood chip on for quite some time. But it still took, I would say, a good 6 inches in places for me to get down to the soil. So what I did when I was planting the tomatoes outside in the wood chip garden, I would dig down, all right, and it's the wood chip, okay, and then you get to darker wood chip, and then I would actually hit the bottom, all right. Oh, another thing as well, I planted some garlics and some onions. I mean, this was earlier on as well. I mean, this was probably even before the strawberries. So what I did was, on the primary patch, I did the same thing. I made a train along the inner edge, and I put some compost 2 inches along the inner edge, and then I put some red onion bulbs. What I also did was put white onion seed in as well. Not quite sure the dates of them, but as I was doing that, I thought, oh, do you know what, I'm going to put some white onion seeds. So I kind of spaced them, white onion seed, red bulb, and such and such. And then that was it. And then kind of pulled the wood chip back on them. We've had growth. I mean, the red onions are coming on really good. Not quite sure about the white onions, but it's early doors on them. But around the rim anyway, what I did was I put some holes for like a broomstick, if you like, and just punch, and you can feel it going through the wood chip, and then poof, you're through into the soil. And I tell you what, that soil underneath, even though I didn't till it after last year's harvest. In fact, some of the vines of the tomatoes are still under there, quite hard to break down actually. They take a while then, but I didn't till it at all. I just laid the wood chip straight on top. But you can go bang, 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 wood chip, and then you go poof, and you go right through into the soil. And even now it's just so thingy. So I went around the rim of the garlic, and I put the broomstick in, boom, 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 and I could feel it going through. And I pop up garlic in there, boom, 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 and then through. But now I'm thinking that maybe like 6 inches is a bit too high for the garlic. So what I've also done is put some extras in more recently, just gone boom, 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 a couple of inches into the wood chip, put put like a big spoonful of compost in there, drop the garlic in there, and pull the wood chips back again, because all that's coming is from stem. So that's what I've done on the outer rim of the veggie patch. And so when I was coming to do the tomatoes, it was a case of just bringing out the wood chip like that, and like I say, you get underneath and it doesn't look like the wood chip on the surface, because it's all starting to break down into smaller pieces. You can see it's more moist, it's getting, you know, you can tell it's almost like halfway between wood chip and compost. But then I might put some eggshells in the bottom, then put like you know, a good handful of compost at the bottom, then sit the tomato in there, you know, take off the false leaves, the first leaves, because you've got the hairs which turn into roots going all the way up there to the false leaf. And I thought that's the point there. So I put the tomato in, I put compost up to the false leaves, and then the rest of it can just get filled with wood chip. And then I'm putting back all this half decomposed wood chip into the hole with the tomatoes, and then at the top you just brush the dry wood chip back, and you create that seal over the compost. I mean, that whole patch now, the compost in there is absolutely protected, and there's no doubt about it. You know, I'm thinking that people are just like throwing like an inch or 2 inches of wood chip on top of their garden in places and expect miracles to happen. I think it's the whole thing. Like when you silicon seal a project or something like that, you don't silicon half or around the window and then leave a big gap there for the air to come through. So I believe if you're going to wood chip, you're going to have to do it properly. So I did do it properly. I covered the whole patch, man. It was overflowing with wood chips. So that compost underneath that, like 6 inches of in my primary patch, will be absolutely totally protected. And I know, because when I'm digging the soil out, you know, I pull out this stuff and it's black and it's lovely and moist. So I'm pretty sure these primary patch ones have got a really good start. And like I say, this wood chip stuff was, I even started, all right, I had seedlings and I had them in soil in seed trays, and some of them like died off early, and some of them had mold on them, and I was like, well, they're dead. Some of them didn't grow, like the yellow melons, they didn't grow. So I put the same seed back in there, and do you know what I did? I covered the compost with these yellow melons that weren't growing. I covered it with some of the sieved wood chip. I covered it with, so you never guess, probably maybe nearly all of them have germinated and come through, and in fact they're in bigger pots now. It's almost like you cover the things with the wood chip, and it's almost like some sort of miracle, like protection, and it's quite incredible. I've even started to use it like on plant pots. I'm using these milk cartons, right? I'm using these milk cartons inside to grow herbs. The bottom layer is wood chip, maybe 2 inches of wood chip. And then I put the plant in and I maybe put 2 inches of soil, only up to past where the seed would be or where the stem starts. And then the rest of it, if you want to bury it again, which you're going to need to anyway to protect that compost, wood chip. So you got like 2 inches of wood chip, any wood chip you like, the thicker stuff. And then you've got 2 inches of compost just for the root ball to start with. Because if you think about it, in fact, yeah, if you think about it, hydroponics, you might say, well, they're not going to root the big wood chip in the bottom. But if you think about it, hydroponics, the seed is germinated in that cell, but then the roots come down into nothing. The roots don't root into anything in the water in hydroponics. They just float in the water. So me, with like 2 inches for the seed ball, but then if them roots start going into the bottom wood chip, they're not going to root in onto the wood chip, I don't think, or they might root around the wood chips. but guess what? They're going to drink. And the bottom bit there, so for the inside ones, it's like self-wickering, if you like. So what I'd put in a small amount of water, I'd let that water go through the top, which is, by the way, the top wood chip will be the finely chopped wood chip. All right, so I'd have 2 inches of bigger wood chip, 2 inches of compost, 2 inches of finely chopped wood chip, and I've been putting herbs. I started off with herbs, and do you know what? Amazing. Remember me saying about seedlings coming through wood chip? I put coriander. Okay, same makeup. So I put the coriander seed on top of the compost. I covered the coriander seed with sieved wood chip. Guess what? I would say probably 100% germination. All right, and it's quite incredible. And so I've continued that on. Did the same thing with parsley. Same growing medium. All right, did the same thing with broccoli and cabbage outside. So I took some plastic containers, 2 inches of wood chip, 2 inches of compost, laid the seed, 2 inches of sieved wood chip, and guess what? I just slipped out before. The broccoli seeds that I put in there, broccoli and cabbage, it was the last of the seeds, in fact. This could have been after I finished the front bed. I put them in there, and I looked a few days ago, half a week ago, germination. I'd only probably planted them 2 weeks ago. So in 2 weeks, the broccoli seed has come through the sieved wood chip and has made it out. Amazing. And the good thing about them ones outside is I obviously put holes in the bottom of them. So the ones that are inside with the herbs, no holes, because you don't want the water going everywhere. But what I do is just add enough moisture. Just look at the plastic. It's better if you get the clear milk cartons, because you can see the moisture inside. You can see the moisture against the plastic, so you can tell whether it's still moist or dry. And then if it's still moist, you don't have to add any water, because the wood chips at the bottom have absorbed the moisture. And the good thing about having, because there was some videos that I seen where people were putting cardboard down or like fleece down to stop the weeds. Well, what they've actually done is, yeah, they might have stopped the weeds from coming from the bottom, which they don't anyway. If you put a bigger enough amount of wood chip on top of them, it blocks out the light. They need light and water. They're going to get water anyway because it rains, so you need to block out the light. You put enough wood chips down or something else down, yeah, it's going to block the light and stop the weeds from going. But here's the downside to putting cardboard there. Yeah, it will decompose, but it's going to take some years. It may have chemicals on it. It may have glue from the sellotape. It may have the ink from the print on the cardboard. You don't think about these things that are going into the soil. And it stops the interjection between the wood chips and the old soil. So you've got this boundary, and then you lift the cardboard. It's like, oh, look at all these worms. All the worms are there because they can't get through the cardboard. But if you don't have any cardboard and you just take the older earth, maybe even leave the grass there, and just put the wood chips on thingy, that everything can communicate easily. But when you put cardboard there like that, it's like that can't communicate with that can't interject with that, and you've just stopped the ecosystem, really. You might have blocked out the weeds, but you've stopped your new compost and stuff from interjecting with the old, and that's not natural. Do you know what I mean? God doesn't put cardboard down in late summer before he drops the leaves on the ground in the autumn, does he? Do you know what I mean? It's that whole natural thing. And by the way, just like we fertilize our soil with stuff or horse manure, aka wild horses, you could call them organic or free range, but they're wild horses. Nobody touches them, nobody moves them. They come up here and they eat grass. No one feeds them cakes, nothing. So I go and I've already done it. I take a bag full of their poo and spread it on the garden, and you know, that is natural fertilizer. Just take enough, just one bag did all the garden. Do you know what I mean? So the rest I can leave for the mountain. No harm is done at all. In fact, they left it on the path for me. So I think that was more of a gift than anything. And so So yeah, so you can, when you fertilize your plants, or you fertilize your plants in the compost, you should do the same with the wood chip garden. You know, you shouldn't just cover your garden wood chip and say, oh, you know, you think you're so clever, you think you so can do miracles, leave you to it, kind of thing. No, give it a help, give it a spread of horse manure, give it a spread of leaves, give it a spread of pine needles. You know, in the season would be best, really, when they fall off the tree. And if you can get them while they're green. I remember I spreaded some conkers on my, and like I say, put food waste on there as well. People are worried about seagulls. I say, not a problem, they don't touch it. I bring bread up to my prayer spot. I feed my ravens that come to prayer spot to see me. I feed them bread. Seagulls fly overhead all the time. They never touch the bread because it's not for them. And so spread the food waste, but because it's no dig, you'll have to put them on top of the wood chip, feeding down. You think about it, plants are planted on the surface and the roots come from here. But people like me also, you know, I used to dig down and I used to plant all this food waste, you know, about 2 feet down in the soil or a foot down in the soil and cover it over. Why bother? I'm thinking now, put it on top and it'll feed it all from the top. The Paul Gauchi guy said about when it rains, the wood chip gets wet, but it releases this something tea. It's called something like something tea anyway, but basically it's releasing its minerals and stuff into the soil that's directly there, not like 2 feet down, but directly on top where the roots are. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. And like I said, I've made some pots with the layers. They're going really well. And the good thing about them, like broccoli in pots, and just recently I've got some spare tomato plants. So literally the other day I put these tomatoes into milk cartons and used the same layer in 2 inches, 2 inch big wood chip, 2 inches compost, 2 inches fine wood chip, put them into, and hopefully they're just going to drop over and sprawl downwards from like hanging pots, which are actually milk cartons. So be interesting to see that as well, because you know, milk cartons are not a massive plant pot, so it'll be interesting to see if they grow big or small. I've had like 3 tomato plants in a trough only about that big, and they grew pretty good in a shaded area as well. So it's going to be interesting to see the results, but I'm willing to put myself out there and go, hey, I've done this because I think this is going to really work. And if it all fails, I'll come on and I'll say, hey, guess what? It didn't work out as good as I thought, but who's to know? And the good thing about this whole thing is not just, you know, is it good for the soil? Is it good for my plant there that I'm going to plant there? But it's kind of created a good foundation structure. You know, there's parts of the garden that I'm thinking about planting where I wouldn't have planted before. But putting that wood chip on top of it, it's like thinking, you know, I wanted to get some grapes on the go possibly and plant them maybe there, a couple of grapevines, see how they do. The other day, I had 1 failed strawberry plant out of all of them. So out of, I don't know, collection of maybe all my strawberry plants, probably about 30. 1 failed in the tower. I think it's because it was either weak or maybe I buried it, didn't bury it high enough. So, do you know what I mean? The wood chip kind of maybe blocked the greenery out. But it did look like it'd been pulled out. So maybe a bird just come along one day and just had a pull at it and actually pulled it out and, you know, took off of it, because they were small. They were last year. All the ones that went into my food tower were the babies from last year. So they're all young and getting good strawberries off plants now, but they're like a year or even 2 years old. So, you know, it's not a I want results now kind of thing. But if that strawberry plant, if they all find a good base and they all grow, they'll be staying there for maybe 3 or 4 years if they produce. And you know, I just take it as there. But 1 failed, so I replaced it with a tomato, because what it is you can't see it a lot of the times, but there's a rail by the shed there that I used to try and grow well, I did grow cucumbers up at one time from the ground level, but there's a rail there so I can use string. So I put a tomato plant in there. I'm going to put a string on the rail, have it come down. So there's one going up between the strawberries. someone said, oh, that's a bad idea because this and nitrogen and whatever. They just said they're a bad mix. They read it online, it's a bad mix. But this person's negative about everything. I post anything. They're just one of these people that come on your post to give you shit, basically. And then there was another strawberry the other day, and I come home from, you know, a day out and stuff, and I seen the strawberry, and I was like, oh, he's not doing very well. He's not happy there. Like, so I just dug that one out. And because, like I said, these tomato plants that I've got going now, big plants, they look like they're like, oh, I need somewhere to go. I need some food. I need to spread my wings, kind of thing. So I took another one of them, a bigger one, and put that in its place. Actually, here's my point: is I actually took the strawberry down, and there's like a 4-inch gap between my fence and the concrete, you know, and usually stuff grows there like grassy and not daffodils, dandelions and stuff like that. But now it's completely been covered with wood chip for the past maybe 2 months. So what I did was I planted this strawberry just in that gap. But yeah, I never would have thought to do that before, because it was literally concrete gap, fence, nothing in between. Weeds grow there and I have to pull them out. But now it's a gap that's been filled with wood chips. So I was under the, you know, I'm thinking now, hey, I can use that as a plant and see how it goes. I might even put some lettuce down there as well. It's a shaded area because it's the back fence, but we'll just see how it goes. But it just like opens up opportunities for you to, other opportunities. I mean, there's another time as well, I had this lettuce seed, couldn't germinate them for shit, couldn't germinate them. I thought, these are faulty, and it came from this pack and there was this guy on it, and I just thought, oh, this guy's just pumping out these crap seeds, you know, putting his face on it to try and sell more, kind of thing. I don't know if he's some famous gardener or what, I don't know. He's not famous to me, like, but anyway, these seeds wouldn't germinate for toffee, like, yeah, and so, but what I did was just remember me saying I put wood chip across a concrete path, so there's about 3 inches, maybe 4 inches of wood chip on top of this concrete path, and it's right next to my primary patch. And what I did was, oh, do you know what, I'm just gonna wing this, like, I'm just gonna, so I brushed back the top wood chips there, kind of made a little bit of a row underneath. It's all darker, it's all smaller bits, you see. And then I just sprinkled these lettuce seeds, which I'd never been able to germinate, along that row. And then I'd push back. Actually, I got a couple buckets of wood chip and put about a 3 or maybe 4 inch layer on top of them. And then just thought, it's just one of them, you know, F it moments. You think, that's not, they're never going to grow. They never have going to grow. So I'll have to wait and see on them, obviously. But they're getting the moisture. As it starts to get warmer, they're going to get the heat. Who knows? You may see some lettuce seeds poking through that 4 inches of thingy at a proper time and give me a nice surprise. Because, like, well, I didn't put any compost there. It was just straight into the wood chip. Would I be surprised if they grew from it? No, I wouldn't. Not of all this, everything that's been going on and what I've read and what I've learned from other people's testimonies. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the lettuce grew from there. In fact, the other day, you know, I was saying about spinach, and I haven't got much spinach. And, you know, in my spirit, it's just like, go back to your seed bank and see if there's any seeds there. So I went back to my seed bank, and hey, I've got a different type of spinach. But the seeds are older, you know, the seeds could be very, very old, for maybe about 4 or 5 years, but I thought, well, bugger it. So alongside my trellis where my cucumbers are going to go, I just literally, all right, no building a mound, no train in the thing or anything. It was just a simple pullback of the wood chip, and I just plonked a good number of these older, but more of a finer leaf spinach. I just put the seeds in there and literally just pushed the wood chip back. I didn't even water them. I thought, you know what, I'm going to wait for the rain to come. But when I do water stuff, it usually is rainwater. I've got like 3 tanks, and if I water anything, I'll use the rainwater. You know, you'd be surprised how much rain comes down and fills them tanks. You have a good rain shower, it will fill one of these bins. And so you know, having excess water off the bigger tank to water it's no problem at all. You're not wasting it. And so and yeah, on the other side of the patch as well, I planted some cabbages very earlier on that weren't really doing anything in the porch. I thought they were going to die. A couple of them were starting to get eaten by slugs who somehow got into the house. Maybe they're underneath the tray, but they looked like they were going to die, so I threw them outside to create a bit of space in the porch, but also they're not going to do anything. I think I put 4 out there, 4 or 6 out there. I mean, it looks like 2 of them have survived. So do you know what I mean? Putting that little tiny weak broccoli out there. Again, I just pulled out a bit of wood chip, put a bit of compost in the bottom, put that in, a bit of compost to hold it there, and threw all wood chip on top, and like 2 of them have survived. And then I did on the primary patch on the opposite side to where the tomatoes have gone. I did like a train of, so I mounded up again, put like another couple of inches of wood chip on top, and then put a train along it, put compost in it, and then put carrot seeds all the way along it, and then topped it with the finer wood chip. Did the same thing and then parsnips, and put fine wood chip on top of it. And yeah, I've just been getting problems with like cats, you know, trying to toilet on top of it. And maybe birds trying to dig away and find seeds. So it's just been a bit of a bummer, yeah, trying to deal with that. So I'm not quite sure how much of a germination rate they're going to get. I did water them in when I put them there, but that's it. And you know, even since you know, putting this wood chip in, I barely watered. You know, it's not I don't water it. And I think one of the key things as well when you're doing this wood chip gardening, especially when not having as much weeds growing, is that if you just water your plants, don't water the whole garden, because let's say there's a dandelion seed on the surface and you water it, you germinate it, then you get the weeds growing on the top. So if there's no plant there, don't water it, and then just let it get there. But the more deceiving, well, it's not deceiving, but you can look at wood chip garden and you think, God, that's dry, because the top wood chips will dry out. The water will be absorbed from them by the sun, and they look like so dry, and you can get the misconception of the garden's dry, water it. But you know, if you just pull them back literally, you know, inch, you'll see underneath it's damp. You dig down like a few inches and it'll be wet underneath. So that's the one misconception that I've had to get a hold of myself of. When you look at the garden, you think, oh, it's dry, it needs a watering. And that's the worst thing to do, because one, you'll get all the weeds growing. But yeah, it will help with compost, but unless you're in a drought condition, it's going to rain anyway at some time, and you have that good fresh stuff, you know, from God coming down, and it'll water the garden. And that's my goal now, is apart from pot plants, apart from not pot plants outside, but apart from plants that I've got germinating inside, I'm not going to water. I'm not going to water. I'm going to let them sit and let them be, let them get rain from heaven whenever God wants to do that, and then see how they get on with no water. Because this is one of the major benefits of wood chip. It keeps all the moisture in, it keeps the compost moist, it keeps the composting going, it keeps the whole system going. So let it do its thing, let it, you know. So that's just my introduction. I know it's a big introduction, but then it's front and back garden which I've been doing. I'm also going to try and I put some potato in between all this. Earlier on, I put some potatoes in wood chip as well, to see how they grow. and I've just seen some sprouting from the top. So I know the top stem is going to grow through, which I knew anyway. And potato is one of them hardy plants that will grow through anything. It's just a matter of will it produce a good crop in wood chip. So, you know, you get the sprouted potato there, and there's about, you know, 2 foot of wood chip on top of it. So just see how they get on from there. But do more research on the potato thing. It's more like potatoes grow from the roots rather than the stem. I was under the misconception that they grew from the stem, because that's why people mound them up and stuff, but it's more not. So more surface growing on top of soil or on top of wood chip might be something I need to do more of. I was more the preconception that you put the sprouting potato further down and then the potatoes grow from that, but not really the case. So that's something else I'll have to have a look at. But potatoes are already growing, they've already sprouted since I put 2 foot of wood chip on top of them. So that's all good. So yeah, I mean, it's just a case of now I know what I did last year, and obviously this year, like I say, it being a great foundation for growing stuff, so I have put more stuff out, but I'll be able to tell whether the quantity is going to be there. Like I said, I may have put stuff out earlier, but hey, you're learning all the time and you're getting better all the time. I've used Passover, because here's the thing, is last year I had a great harvest. I had some tomatoes growing out of nothing. I planted lettuce and I got tomatoes. I put them tomatoes outside, and so I had an extra 12 plants. On top of everything else, and so it's quite amazing. But guess what? The Feast of Tabernacles, the fall feast, part of that feast says it's gathering the last part of your harvest to be part of this feast celebration. And you know, the very day that 7, well, it's not 7, it's an 8 day, just like Passover just happened now. The fall feast is 7 days, but the 8th day is also a Sabbath. The first day is also a Sabbath. But guess what? On the end of the Feast of Tabernacles, guess what? The tomatoes just went boof. They all died the day after the Feast of Tabernacles, also called Sukkot, had ended. I was like, whoa, praise God, praise God. I mean, I don't need any more evidence, but I was just like, wow. The feast that says bring the last part of your harvest in on during this feast, or the run up to this feast, the day after the feast is complete, poof, all the tomatoes just went like that. I was like, whoa, praise God, praise God. You know what I mean? But looking from now though, like Feast of Passover's just happened. Now you know I got 6 months. 6 months in between feasts. So I'm like looking and thinking 6 months to grow tomatoes. I'm like, whoa, that is a big window, you know, all the way up to the Feast of Tabernacles. But I thought, with the temperature going up, let's get to it. Even if these broccoli seeds are sprouting and growing into broccolis from seed, I mean, 6 months to grow from seed to a full harvest of anything, it's got to be more than enough. So I'm not interested in, I want it now. I'm going to be like, right, well, they've got 6 months to do their thing now, you know. So let's just see what happens. I did really want to get some more wood chip covered ground and have more harvest growing. Also I put some wheat seeds out around my carrots and parsnips, but mainly to try and keep the cats and that off it, because I know wheat seed grows really fast. In fact, the day after, or the night after I threw these seeds down, it rained. The day after, I went out there and I could see these sprouted wheats. I used to grow wheatgrass, so I know I know it literally every single day of the growth. You know, you soak the water, you soak the seeds overnight, they're sprouting one day after, they got bigger sprouts on them 2 days after. You put them on the soil, like 2 inches of soil in a seed tray. Within 2 more days, they're pushing up the seed tray with grass. And that's what we used to cut. That's what I used to cut at about 6 to 8 inches, and then you juice that green grass. You can actually let that grow on then, and it'll grow into a wheat plant. And off one stem, you get all that kernel of wheat off it, and it's just reproducing, man. So what I've done is I put a border around my carrots and parsnips, and literally sprinkled on top of the wood chip, on top of the horse manure. Just let them go. I looked at them, they're sprouting already. So yeah, but it might take a little bit longer for them roots to go into the wood chip and find like a growing medium as such. But just like the carrots, yeah, I'm optimistic, and I know wheatgrass is a hardy plant, and really it should grow some sort of harvest border around them. In fact, in about a week or two, I'm expecting to see nice green grass shoots around that, you know, fully expecting it. So yeah, and also the point of the wheat harvest as well is it marks, remember that Feast of Tabernacles being the end of the harvest season? Well, really, that wheat should go brown like the dead that are raptured. The harvest should be ready when it goes brown, and that should be around the Feast of Tabernacles. And then you put a barley seed out, and then that should be ripe at the start of the new year, which we just had at the start of the Feast of Passover. Feast of Passover can't happen unless there's ripe barley in the field. We get that from scripture. In Egypt, they said the barley was ripe, but the wheat wasn't, because it hadn't grown up yet, because it wasn't the season for the wheat to grow up yet. So yeah, it's all good. Yeah, this was just an introduction of the whole thing, and then hopefully I'll and it's more of a starting everything off. So next will be results. Hey, you know, wood chip in these plant pots really works, or these flowers have come on, this bush looks better. Hey, these spinach germinated in, or these peas germinated in direct wood chip. These things have got, it's more going to be a results thing after now. You know, it's more like a planting season now, so I've planted what I want to really plant. I mean, I've literally took up the space of which I've got available, and now it's going to be a case of results now. So yeah, I just wanted to share this introduction video. I was going to do a video on Apophis and 2029, but I couldn't get my words out, and just like any video I make on Bible prophecy, if it's not flowing, I don't force it. I'll talk about something else. So I sat here and I slapped my legs and I pray God, and I was like, what should I talk about? What should I talk about? What should I talk about? And then all that came in my head was wood chip garden. So I was like, okay, wood chip garden. So yeah, so I'll share this video, and I'll make probably a massive article about it, a massive post about it, because a massive amount of things has get done. But like I say, all it's going to be following on from this is like small result. Hey, this done good, this done bad. Yeah, I'm a realist. I'm not gonna tell you that I had a great harvest of tomatoes this year, but you know, half of them died, but the other ones were great. But if it's not going to produce results, then I'll admit that it hasn't produced results, and I'll seek the answer why it hasn't produced results. But I'm pretty optimistic. Even the tomatoes that I planted outside, sometimes they get a bit droopy, you know. Sometimes they get a bit droopy, and but none of them have this year, so it's all going great. And only just recently as well, I planted tomatoes in the central reservation, but that was just recent. I mean, a few days ago from now. So, you know, it was after, well after Passover had finished. And so yeah, I just planted them outside. Got a little bit more room at the top. Don't exactly know what I'm going to do with it. The next thing's the cucumbers, but cucumbers are more of a hot weather thing, so they took a little bit more time growing. They'll be going on a trellis. When they're ready, I'll just put them out, you know, maybe 3s at a time, 4s at a time, out, whatever. And leave room for the others and just have that trellis of cucumbers. Melons will go on the other side of the trellis, underneath the trellis, and what they'll do is they'll just go, I'll just run them along the ground. I'll prune them the best I can, the offshoots. I don't even know how to do it. I'm gonna have to learn because I haven't done it before, but it's probably the same as doing the tomatoes and the cucumbers. I'm pretty sure I've pruned cucumbers before. So I'll do that, and then the melons will sit on that lower bed and they'll just like sprawl across the ground. I might even take them up bamboos onto the trellis, and I don't know how it goes. Morning. Right. Nice and warm, innit?
Lovely, yeah.
And so yeah, that'll be the finish there. The melons at the bottom of the garden, but the yellow melons failed early on, so I put watermelons out. They grew. I was like, whoa. And then again, I tried them things with the yellow melons and then put wood chip over them, and then they come through. So I'm like, oh, so now I've got yellow melons and watermelons. It'll be a case of just try them out and then pray for like a really stinking hot. I don't mind if it's dry. I've got the wood chips. You know what I'm saying? But fill my tanks with water, bring on the heat, bring on dryness. We know, I know that next year is going to be the drought, because I made prophecy that it's going to be a drought in the seals. But if the seals are going to be beginning with the winter king William being crowned king in the winter, i.e. like the end of November, through to, you know, Tevet 14th, January 3rd, then having a drought from the end of November through December into the very 1st of January is not going to be any great shake on people. You know, it's not going to be some great plague on the people. But I'd already prophesied it. So I believe that the drought is going to begin in 2025, but through the season of like summer, and then continue into the winter months, autumn, winter months, or, you know, at least begin halfway in the year, just so the effect on people that they realize that God is real and God is coming. I believe the drought is going to begin early. Do you see what I mean? Do you get what I mean? Because when the seals happen, it'll be like November. The winter king. So I don't mind, just like bring it on. If it's dry, I'm not bothered, because the wood chips are keeping the moisture in. If there's a lack of water, definitely next year, but maybe this year, then it's okay. My tanks are full, and you don't have to water them at the plant just as much as you think they're going to need, which is not going to be a lot, because all the moisture is going to be underneath there that you can't see. You just see dry wood chips, but you dig 2 inches and you got wet, moist soil. And people have been testified it in America, where it's a lot hotter. They've said we've had 3 months of drought and we didn't water the plants, and they didn't die. They were fine. So I'm praying it's going to be a stinking hot year for them melons, because I'd love to get some watermelons and some cucumbers grown outside, because a lot in the UK, most of the time people grow tomatoes even and cucumbers in greenhouses. My dad used to do it when I was younger, but mine are outside. We don't have a greenhouse, so I can't put them in a greenhouse, but mine are going to be outside anyway. So that's what I mean. I'm praying for hot year, and it doesn't matter if it's dry, because we're geared up for that. So Thanks for watching. That's just my introduction. I'll follow up with any updates and just probably label it woodchip garden and then whatever it is. So thanks for watching. God bless you all. I've been Pastor Prophet Justin Roberts from the End of the Age Bible Prophecy. God bless you all in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. One of the things that is always spoke about when you talk about woodchip, they're the people who want to diss it, is that, you know, it robs nitrogen from the soil. But, you know, I was just thinking about it then after I made the video, is that, hey, I'm putting wood chip on top of hard clay shit soil, which nothing grows on anyway. So you're putting wood chip on top of soil that's worthless anyway. So you're not losing anything. There's nothing to lose. Nitrogen from the soil, I mean, it was literally worthless anyway. So, you know, it's only going to add to it.